meeting of the Waxahachie Independent School District Board of Trustees to order. Let the record show that 5 trustees are present, and this meeting has been duly called, and notice of this meeting has been duly posted for time and manner required by law. First item on the agenda will be our invocation, led by Mr. Cooper, followed by our pledges for the American and Texas flags.
Yes, let us pray. Heavenly Father, most gracious eternal God, Father, we thank you for the opportunity to serve. Father, we thank you for this great district. Father, we thank you that our greater days yet lie before us. Father, we ask that you would clear our minds, Father, clear our hearts, help us to keep the main thing the main thing. Help us to have a meeting that is pleasing unto you, and remember our students and our staff to put them first. Father, again, we just thank you for the opportunity to serve. Help us in the ways that we have erred. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Thank God. Amen.
The next item is our open forum. This is the portion of the board meeting where the board receives input from patrons. Each person who addresses the board will have 5 minutes to speak on his or her issue. Because of posting requirements to the Open Meetings Act, board members will not ask questions of the patron nor answer any question posed by the patron. No action can be taken on any issue presented during the patron comment section of the board meeting. Patrons addressing the board will be notified when they are approaching the last 60 seconds of their allotted time to speak. When I call your name, please step to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Tara Norris.
And you wanted my name and
Name
address?
name and address for the record, and Mr. Pitts, to my left, your right, will be the timekeeper.
Okay. Tara Norris, 123 Morningstar Lane, Waxahachie. Picture for a moment, you're the parent of a child who is graduating on Friday, May 22nd, 2026. You arrive at the reasonable hour of 6 p.m. to join the line to enter the stadium, which will open at 6:30 p.m. for an 8 p.m. ceremony. Upon your arrival, you are dismayed to discover there are multiple lines of people snaking around the stadium, reaching Brown Street and Indian Drive, and eventually even farther. Imagine to your dismay that you realize that the line, only 2 at each of the main entrances and 1 at the guest side entrance, were moving at a snail's pace. Hundreds of families, likely at least a couple of thousand, waited 2, 3, and 4 hours to enter the stadium. Then, as you're stuck in an endless line with people cutting and the metal detecting process going at a glacial pace, you hear the processional music to indicate the graduates are entering the field, and you aren't there to see it or the opening speeches. My 3 children, have been attending Waxahachie High School. My oldest graduated that Friday. He was excited, we were excited. It was an exciting time, but it was also heartbreaking because along with us, hundreds of families and thousands of people experienced the previously illustrated horrific failure on the part of the board to organize this graduation ceremony with the understanding that our growing city has outgrown the small town graduation. Families with elderly members and children left due to the heat and disorganization. Hundreds of people didn't make it into the stadium until the end of the ceremony. People were saving seats for family members that were not there for the most of the ceremony, which required a huge number of graduates, family members, to stand in aisles and walkways in the paths of people trying to get in and out, which also posed
60
a huge...
seconds.
60 seconds? Okay. So...
Never mind. Sorry. Keep going.
I'm sorry?
Keep going. Keep going.
Okay. Which required a huge number of, in the paths of people trying to get in and out, which also posed a huge safety hazard. What was supposed to be a ceremony was turned into a glorified football game, topped off by making the choice to open the concessions, adding to the already inane chaos. To quote David Moulton, one of the community members. My brother waited in line for an hour and finally decided to, after 8 to just go home and watch it on YouTube. Another woman, Erica Rasmussen, another member of the community, talked to one of the security officers this week. He said there had been talks this last year about switching to tickets, but they turned it down because they want to keep it a small town feel. I received videos, I received communications on Facebook from many people in the community, especially the graduates' families. And a lot of people had to park so far away, like in the Walmart parking lot, that they ended up having to walk a half mile just to get to the stadium, and then they had to stand in line for multiple hours. We need to do better. There were people that had to go home, elderly people that had to go home that were not able to get in to see their family members graduate. I didn't get to see my son walk onto the field, my oldest. I did not have a place to sit. I had to fight to sit anywhere. Our graduate numbers have been increasing year over year since 2020, starting at 491 graduates in 2020 to 664 this past year. There's an estimated 724 graduates estimated to graduate this next year. With this ever-increasing number, having an open graduation for our growing community doesn't work anymore. It can't. If people are going to be allowed to see their children graduate. So, some of the things that I recommend: provide a set number of tickets for each graduate, increase the number of gates open from what they were this year to more, however that needs to happen. Enable the elderly patrons to be able to enter the field or to enter in a more in a safer way, so they're not having to climb the stairs and they're not having to climb the ramps and they're not having to end up having to leave because they just can't handle standing anymore.
60 seconds.
Okay. To close, I am frustrated that this has been allowed to go on for the last couple of years because I've heard from many people. What worries me the most is that it won't change unless a catastrophe happens and somebody gets hurt. Let's be proactive to do what's best for our community and the graduates we love so much. I love this city, and I love the traditions that we have, but just because something's a tradition doesn't mean that it needs to stay that way. To quote the live-action Cinderella, just because it's what's done doesn't mean it's what should be done. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, our next item is our budget workshop. Mr. Calden?
Good evening, Board and Ms. McCutcheon. We are gathering for our second budget workshop as we work towards the 2026-2027 fiscal year. We're going to walk through kind of the same outline and same set of information that we've done last year with the budget workshop, but we'll kind of go through it. Quickly, we'll talk a little bit about budget facts. So our fiscal year is September 1 through August 31st, and our budget development process usually takes about 6 months. We usually start in February with those meetings with campuses and departments, and then we come back in March, and we have that initial budget workshop with you, the board, where we get feedback from you and priorities from you on things that you would like to see us strive for with that budget. We come back again in May or June. Generally, we've been doing it more in June, just to give ourselves a little bit more time with that second budget workshop. And then again, we'll come back in August with that third budget workshop, along with the adoption of the budget, which must legally be done before August 31, or before September 1, so August 31 at the latest, because that's the start of our fiscal year. Quick reminder, our local revenues make up 50 to 55%, so the bulk majority of our general fund revenues. The overwhelming majority of those local revenues are going to be those property tax revenues. So we know that that's a significant driver of our ability within the general fund for expenditures is driven off those local revenues. Our state revenues make up about 45 to 50% of our budget. And then a diminishing amount is going to be those federal revenues. I say 2 to 5%. That's a little bit of an older number. It's a little bit under 1% right now with our federal revenues. On the expenditure side, you're going to see anywhere from 80 to 85% be payroll and benefit expenditures. As a reminder, we are a little bit over 85%, which is a little high. Around the state, your averages are going to be anywhere from 80 to 85%. And so we are monitoring where we are expenditure-wise for salaries and benefits, and we are looking to try to reduce that as we go forward. Contracted services is the next large category. This is going to encompass utilities. It's going to encompass insurance and really any other contracted service that the district might incur. That makes up a little under 10%, about 5 to 8%. Then supplies and equipment make up about 5% of our expenditure total. And then you have that catch-all category of other operating expenses. It's about 3 to 4%, and then capital outlay is about 1%. Back in March, you identified some budget priorities for us. So in Tier 1, we have present a balanced budget while also creating positions for the Waxahachie Creek High School opening, allocating operating funds for the opening of Waxahachie Creek, and investigate a pay increase for all staff. So those are our Tier 1 priorities as we're moving through the budget for 26-27, the development of the budget for 26-27. Then you see some Tier 2 and Tier 3 items that quite honestly have been unchanged for a couple of years. There's still significant items in terms of bus replacements and a more frequent refresh cycle for our technology devices, and then some Tier 3 items that we would really love to get to one of these years if those funds become available. Before we start talking significance of budget, we need to talk about fund balance. So priority 1 within the priority 1 segment is present a balanced budget. And so last year we were able to add some funds to fund balance. Really honest, it wasn't as much a planned add as it was we avoided some expenditures at the end of the year. So we had plans to spend budget money that did not come to fruition at the end of the last fiscal year, so that enabled us to put some money into fund balance to the tune of about $1.8 million. With that infusion, we're at about 24.1% of operating expenditures in fund balance. That is an increase from just under 24% of operating expenditures at the end of 2024. $1.8 million sounds like a lot and a really small increase in that fund balance number, but that's also because our expenditures grew during that 24-25 fiscal year as well. So it's a combination of putting some money back is why the percent went up, but the expenditures also grew from the district's perspective. Expenditures this year are on track to exceed revenues during this year. That's primarily due to lower than expected student enrollment. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through. Give you a chart, shows you trend of fund balance as a percent of expenditures. You can see the impact from 2019. We were sitting in a pretty good spot, and then we went through COVID, and that really had a havoc wreaked on us as we went through the throes of COVID back in 2022. We've been making substantial progress to get ourselves in a more healthy fund balance situation. Since 2022, you'll see us right at 24.1% of expenditures at the end of 2025. Talk about some legislative changes. I guess I should pause for a real hot minute as I go and get a drink of water and just remind you it is a workshop. So feedback, input, questions at any point, happy to stop and pause for those, but I'm going to get a drink. And a Mac. Okay, legislative changes. You wouldn't normally think we'd be talking a lot about legislative changes in a non-legislative year, but there's a really large one on the horizon. In the last legislative session, there were changes to special education. So we're going from settings to intensity of service model. With that, we do have some information now from TEA on what the 8 intensity settings are. So our special ed staff is going to review all 2,000 plus IEPs to determine that intensity of service model. A general note from TEA throughout the state. The state legislature added $250 million to special education funding with this shift. A district is not guaranteed to see additional funds based off the switch from settings to intensity of service. It really is going to depend on where our students fall along that matrix of intensity of service as to whether we see additional funds from this change in SPED funding. So right now, it's still early as we go through over 2,000 IEPs to know exactly where all of our students are going to break down into those intensity modules. So as we have more information, we'll be able to better answer what impact that's going to have fiscally on the district. That information, I believe, is due to the state in October. So a really short timeline, but we're working through that. But I don't have a good guess for you right now because it is more based on intensity of service than the actual settings that it used to be. Operationally, just kind of give you an update on where we are this year. I know we did an update in January, a mid-year update, so we'll go ahead and kind of keep you going. At the very beginning of the year, we had an original budget that had a minor surplus, about $100,000 for the year. But we also had student enrollment projected as growth to the tune of almost 300 student expected growth based off demographic projections for this year. I'm here to tell you that we are well behind that 300 student growth. We are flat, essentially, from the 24-25 school year. So that right there, the 300 students, if you carry that out into 300 ADA, that is the bulk majority of where we are going to fall short this year on the budget. So I do anticipate our expenditures to exceed our revenues. I anticipate our revenues primarily to be behind because of student growth that we forecasted that did not come to fruition. We are seeing payroll expenditures that are tracking a little bit under our budget right now. They are not tracking to the tune that they're going to make up our decrease in revenues, but we are seeing that those are tracking a little bit under the full year budget for payroll expenditures at this time. One discussion that's been had is looking back at our budget reduction recommendations. And so these are kind of a one-year look in. So last year, the Budget Reduction Committee made a recommendation to eliminate campus-based substitutes. That has been followed through, and those positions have been absorbed back in. The committee also recommended eliminating the third AP at junior high campuses and going back to our model that bases that on enrollment. And so we will be adding a third junior high assistant principal at Howard this year based off student enrollment. But the other two third AP positions have been eliminated. Elementary library open positions went from a full credentialed librarian to a library aide. Those have remained in place. We had 3 of them last year. I believe we are adding another library aide this year. The other avenue of that was we're eliminating a junior high library aide position. So at each junior high, we had a library aide. Last year, we had 3 open library aide positions at elementary, so we've transitioned those junior high library aides into elementary librarians. This year, we do have 1 elementary librarian opening, which will transition to an aide at one of our campuses. And then the other budget reduction recommendation last year was consolidating the elementary PEIMS clerks off of campuses into a centralized elementary PEIMS center. We went from 10 PEIMS clerks to 3, and having lived through it for a year, we know that that was too large of a cut. And so there is a request to add 2 elementary PEIMS clerk positions to bring that 3 up to a 5, which would get each PEIMS clerk 2 campuses instead of the 3 to 4 campuses that they are currently running. So that experiment did not work. We do believe that with 2 more clerks that it will be a much better ran program going forward. So that is one request for an increase for this year. There was also a proposal to modify secondary campuses and have those return from a 6 of 8 teaching schedule to a 7 of 8 teaching schedule. Initially, that was proposed for the 26-27 school year, but we have put that on hold for the 27-28 school year. So we do believe that there are some efficiencies to be gained, and quite honestly, in looking at the numbers, with the same or even smaller class sizes on average at the campus. So we do anticipate that next year we'll look at going back to a 7 of 8 teaching schedule instead of 6 of 8 at the secondary campuses. So as we're working through budget, this is the wild ride, I guess, at Six Flags. So this is where my brain goes is, well, there's 1,000 districts in the state, So how are others doing it? And so I start looking at peer comparisons. I find some information that I really think that you, the board, might find interest in. So the next good number of slides are just me sharing the crazy warped mind that I have and what I started looking at. So I made 3 different comparisons. The first comparison was with local Ellis County schools, because we're going to be in a very similar shape regardless of our demographics. We're going to be similar in terms of student enrollment and growth, and we're going to be looking at different funding mechanisms because we are all in that same county. Then I had looked in a second group at some DFW districts, tried to get closer in our size and ones that we would want to kind of emulate in terms of their student successes. So I was looking at Carrollton Farmers Branch, Capel, Hershey, Euless Bedford, and then I went a little bit further out with Sherman, just to give me another district to look at. Then I, of course, looked at our state peer group that we've talked about for a couple of years now, Deer Park, Georgetown, Friendship, Huntsville, and New Braunfels. But then this year I added another category because I was feeling really crazy that day. I looked at the 141 A-rated districts in the state, because A-rated, A through F, is kind of where we want to be. We keep wanting to show the community and the rest of Texas what a great education you can get, Waxahachie ISD, so we're really striving for that A-rated district. I did notice right off the bat that 20 of those districts are recapture heavy. When I say recapture heavy, that's a made-up called-in term for they spend more than 20% of their budget on recapture payments to the state, which is really disproportionate in terms of their spend compared to everybody else. So I did pull out 20 of those. So when I show you the comparison for A-rated districts, it's really only looking at about 120 of those 141 A-rated districts, so that it's more of a comparative. So first off, I started looking at expenditures as a percent of total spend within the budget. So this chart is really 2 axes. So you're looking at the left that's showing you total Function 11 spend in dollars. You'll see that Waxahachie ISD is the highest spend in Function 11. But you see a percentage on the chart also. That percentage is the relative percent of expenditures within Function 11 as all of general fund expenditures for that district. So I know it looks a little odd to have Midlothian a smaller spend at 49%, and then you have Red Oak an even smaller spend at 50.7%. Know that the chart on the actual bar is total expenditures, so total dollar expended in Function 11. The percent is how much of a percent that is for their total expenditures within the general fund. So you will see a little bit of a difference here. The blue bars are the districts that are spending 50.5% or more of their budget on Function 11 expenditures, and the green bars are the ones that are spending less than 50.5. 50.5 is that average of the Ellis County districts. So what does that tell us? That tells us that we spend, as a percentage, more of our budget on Function 11 expenditures than our Ellis County peers. Not good or bad, it's a data point. And so now we start taking other data points and we start comprising an overall summary of where we look. If you compare us to Ellis County, I just told you that Function 11, we spend more of our budget proportionally on Function 11, which is student instruction, than the average of our Ellis County peers, to the tune of almost 8%. That doesn't sound like a bunch, but that ends up, when you multiply it out, to about $9.5 million more that we spend on Function 11, student instruction, than our peers in Ellis County. Not good or bad, it is what it is. We spend more on instruction than our peers do. Function 12 is instruction and media, so think of it more as like your library resources. We spend a little bit more, 0.07% more than our peers, or about $91,000 more. Function 13 is curriculum, instruction, and development. We are right on pace with the average of Ellis County. You could draw a line and say, well, you're about $7,500 more in expenditures than the county, but for all intents and purposes, what we're trying to do today, that's pretty average. That's pretty equal. We are on par with our curriculum and instruction. Yes, ma'am.
How does it weigh in the money we get back from the state for using highly qualified materials? Because I know that some of the districts do not use the same curriculum that we do.
Yes, absolutely. Great question. So, Ms. Kriegel, this is only looking at the general fund expenditures. This is not looking at the state allotment funds that are a completely different fund. So, those districts that are buying their materials out of the state allotment like we are, that's not showing up on this comparative. So if a district is not using their state adopted or state resources for adoptions, then their expenditures would play into this. Ours are not. A bulk majority of our curriculum expenditures are coming out of Fund 410, that state textbook allotment fund. So good question. All right, we'll continue on. Function 21 is instructional leadership. So this is going to be directors and other leaders in the district that are not on a campus. You'll see that ours is a little bit higher spend than the average of Ellis County. Function 23 is your campus leadership. Ours, again, a little bit higher than the average of Ellis County. You'll see a green bar in here for 31. 31 is counseling and guidance. Our expenditures actually trail those of the rest of the average of Ellis County by about 1/4% or $320,000 as a whole. 33 is nursing. Again, we're pretty on par, pretty average with nursing services. 34 is transportation. We're about 0.75% higher than the average on transportation. 36 is extracurricular and co-curricular activities. 41 is general administration, and 51 is plant maintenance and operations. You'll see each of those is below the average of our Ellis County peers. Highlighting general admin, function 41, it's over 2% lower than the proportionate spend of our Ellis County peers, to the tune of about $2.7 million if we were to go with their levels of spending on general admin. 52 is security, and so you'll see that we are a little higher than the average of Ellis County peers on security. 53 is data processing. We are again below our peers to the tune of about 2.7% on data processing. And then 61 is community outreach, and you'll see that we are below our peers. So in summary, the first part of this, the student-based services, the 11, 12, 13, 21, 23 that are directly impacting students, generally we tend to be more heavy on our spend with student-based services. And then we also, conversely, tend to be less heavily spent on non-student-based services, which would be your general administration, your plant operations and maintenance, your data processing, your community outreach. Okay, going a little bit faster, took this same method and went through DFW and state peers. You'll notice some similarities. Function 13, while we were pretty on par with Ellis County in the first chart, this one we're a little bit behind our peers in the DFW and the state peers. Again, we're behind our peers as it comes to counseling, so function 31, but you'll notice that our spend on instruction came more in line, came more in average. We're still higher by almost 2%, or about $2.3 million, but we're more in line with the DFW peers and our state peers on our instructional spend for students. Moving over to the non-necessarily student services, again, you'll see function 41. We do lag behind our peers in general admin spend, and also in data processing, function 53 spend. So I wanted to look at where we compared to our A-rated districts. You see a large delta from our spending on instruction to the average of the A-rated districts. Again, I removed 20 of them because they were recapture heavy and it really skewed the data. But you see it closer to the A-rated average, is closer to that Ellis County average, to where they're about 9.6 million more that we spend on instruction than the average of A-rated districts across the state. On this one, you see that all of the student services are a higher spend from Waxahachie ISD than the average of the state. Until we start getting to 36, which is going to be your co and extracurricular activities. And then again, you start seeing the district-wide services, less of a spend on Waxahachie ISD side compared to the average of the A-rated districts. A lot of information. We'll summarize it in two little charts here. So these are the functions that Waxahachie ISD spends less than all of our peers, and I've shown you the percents. And so functions 11, 12, that's student instruction and media. And then 21 is district leadership, 23 is campus leadership, 33 is your nursing services, 34 is transportation, 52 is security. So in all of these peer groups spend more proportionately on that function than Waxahachie ISD does, and that's across the board for those. And then across the board, Waxahachie ISD spends less on, less on function 41, which is general admin, and 53, data processing, than our peers across the board. Interesting information. It doesn't necessarily tell you right or wrong. So then I start looking into, well, I know that 80 to 85% of our budget is made up of people. So in these functions, how do we compare people-wise? Again, looked at these districts from a TAPER perspective. TAPER is the academic performance report from the state that the state puts out. It's always a year behind. So right now, most recent information is 24-5. We anticipate 25-6 information will be available probably December, January timeframe after the state has had the first round of submissions in the fall from PEAMS. So total staff, if we look at teachers as a percent of total staff that were submitted to the state, the median is 50.57 for this group. So if you're looking at Hershey-Lewis Bedford, 50.57% of all staff that were reported to the state were teachers. For Waxahachie ISD, it was 47.06. So this tells me one of two things. Either we have a data coding problem, because I just got finished telling you we spend more on instruction, and we know that staff salaries and benefits make up the overwhelming majority of all of our expenditures. I just got finished telling you we spend more on instruction than our peers, but I'm also telling you we're reporting less teachers than our peers. So something's not making a whole lot of sense. So we either have a data processing issue or we have a efficiency issue. So we might be reporting fewer teachers, but our teachers might have smaller class sizes, it's great for student instruction and learning, but compared to Hershey-Lewis Bedford, that may make up some of that difference. I'm not here to tell you it makes up all of that difference or any of that difference. I haven't investigated any of it at this point. I'm giving you theories as we go kind of through this. We're looking at central administration as a percent of total staff. The median is 1.46. You'll see Waxahachie ISD is about 2.3. So this, again, tells me I was well under my total expenditures for general administration, but I show that my percent of total staff reported in central administration is higher than my peers. So again, I probably have some sort of a data validity issue that is going to need to be researched on our end to make sure that we're reporting accurate data. Otherwise, if we're not reporting accurate data, we're never going to draw accurate conclusions in terms of pure staffing, just looking from the TAPER measure. Next group is educational aides. The median is 12.02, and we're at just under 13, 12.0. I would tell you as a collective whole in this group, we're pretty in line with the rest of that group. Less than 1% delta variance, we're pretty in line with the mean and average of that group. Total utilization, this is auxiliary staff. The average, or the median is 24.5, and we're at 26.6. So we have a little bit higher auxiliary staff. Auxiliary in this case would be those that have not otherwise been coded. So it hasn't been central admin or teachers or auxiliary or educational aides. You'll see that there appears to be an outlier out there with Huntsville ISD. Again, not having done any research, this is kind of one of the dangers in looking at this kind of model, but it does give me an idea of where that median is and where we are relative to that median so that we can make adjustments going forward. So then I started breaking it down on a per student ratio and started looking at students per staff. So how many total students per every staff member? The median is 8, and we're at 6.7. So that right there, regardless of how I break down the staff, tells me we're probably inefficient in our staffing as a district. That goes more in line to kind of what I would expect to see based off of our expenditures by functional category relative to our peers. So in total, I think we might have a little bit of a staffing inefficiency. Again, I look at Huntsville ISD and I don't know that we need to get to 13.4 students for every staff member. There was a discussion earlier that that is likely driven by a high virtual student population in their district, and that's great for them and their district and their set of facts. That would not necessarily be something that Waxahachie ISD wants to copy. Students per teacher. So this gives me a general idea of what our average class size, class load looks like. I'll have you know Waxahachie ISD is the median of this group. So 4.3 is our number. So there's approximately 4.3 students in every teacher that was reported, and that's the median of this group. So it tells me we're kind of on par with the remainder of this group in terms of students in that average teacher reported area. When I look at central administrators, the median is 5.4 in this group, and Waxahachie is at 2.9. But I just got finished telling you not too long ago that we were below everybody else on that central admin spend. So again, that tells me we're not coding something correctly. We're coding way too many to central administration that shouldn't be, and or we are not competitive with our central administrative salaries, which could probably be a common refrain throughout multitude of these functions and these employee categories. Again, not drawing conclusions on it. Those are working theories that we can continue to look at and monitor going forward. Students per educational aid, the median is 68 and we're at 52, so we're a little bit more populated in terms of the number of educational aides. Again, that could be a data problem, or it could be an efficiency problem within the district. And then looking at students per auxiliary staff member, the median is 32 and we're at 25. So that tells me we probably have additional staff members per students in our district. Again, we need to kind of look at not only the coding on that, but also where we can be more efficient. I know that was a lot of charts and a lot of data, so let me get back to the whole main point. As we look at our staffing, we will continue monitoring those trends and seeing where we can be more efficient and where we can better improve our data. Going forward for next year, ADA projections and expectation. This year we fell short of our ADA projections, so next year we plan to hold it pretty flat. You're not going to see much of an increase in our ADA projections, about 60 kids. This year we came in about 10,349 on the ADA. Next year we're budgeting about 10,415. Demographers projecting over or right at a 1% increase in student enrollment. So you'll see that, you know, if we're projecting 60 and the demographer's anticipating a 1%, you're looking at, we're taking about 60% of that demographic projection for next year. 10,415 is roughly 92.3% of expected enrollment, and this year we had roughly a 94.7% attendance rate. So we're feeling like that is doable, assuming that we hit the enrollment projections from the demographer. Take you on a review of our ADA by 6 weeks. Again, this year we fell short of our expectations with that relatively flat enrollment. The chart on the left, you'll see that we did not reach our benchmark budget ADA in any of the 6 weeks or the total. On the chart on the right, you'll see our attendance percentages. We started out strong once again at over 95% as a district, but you'll see that with the third 6 weeks forward, we didn't come anywhere close to our 95% attendance budget again. And a little bit of a disturbing trend, you'll see actually a decrease in attendance from 5th 6 weeks to 6th 6 weeks. That is a little outside of the trend, outside of the norm. We normally see a U shape where we start high and we end high, and then everything in between kind of funnels down to honestly not so good attendance in January and February when we're hitting cold and flu season, but we usually see a pretty good rebound after spring break. This year that rebound didn't fully hit us in that 6 weeks. So as a total for the year, our attendance was about 94.7% as a district for the year. Early look for next year, we're anticipating right now a very rough estimate of about $1.2 million in additional revenues, and our best guess right now is about $2 million in expenditures, which would put us, if everything were to hold and no other tunes be made, at a deficit budget. We know that's not the goal. We also know that that's been one of the things that we've had earmarked on our calendars going forward. When we get to the opening of Waxahachie Creek, we might be looking at a deficit for that 1 year, but our goal is not to remain in that position. Some information that I was looking at earlier that I thought might be of interest to you. About 42% of Texas school districts operated with a deficit budget in 23-24. That number rose to 63% in 24-25 and is expected to rise again for 25-26. That information obviously is not out at this point, as actually none of the 25-26 operating years have concluded. But districts in 26-27 are expected to, at almost a 63% pace or higher, adopt deficit budgets. Some of the big ones that you may have heard: Austin ISD, $181 million deficit budget for next year. That's after they trimmed it from $203 million to $181 million. Dallas ISD, $104 million. Cypher ISD, $67 million. Richardson ISD, $20 million. I'm going to save that one for last because it's heartbreaking. Midlothian ISD, $6 million, and College Station ISD, $8.3 million. The one that I told you I would save is Letta ISD. It's over by El Paso. I believe it's a little bit east of El Paso. A $12 million deficit. That's not the heartbreaking part. Here's the heartbreaking part. Their entire general fund balance is $16.3 million. They're spending down to about $4 million in fund balance. That's a spot, my friends, we can't get into. So when we look at what we're talking about increases for next year, we really have a teacher step increase. So teachers have that built-in step, that built-in increase in pay on that step. That's really about the only increase we're talking about given next year because it's already built into the schedule. I'm telling you right now, as much as I would love for us to look at $2 million or so in all staff pay raises, I am super concerned with our enrollment being flat like it was this year. Is that an anomaly? Is that a trend? If it's an anomaly, we can be having this conversation again in the fall and say enrollment's way up. Let's talk about an increase for staff through the course of the fiscal year. If it's part of a greater trend, intentionally spending deficit on recurring expenditures going into 26-27 will set us up in a really bad way going forward as we start exhausting that fund balance. Questions, comments, concerns? Because the next one I have is next budget workshop is August 17th.
Yeah, Ms. Cardinal, what's the targeted fund balance percentage?
25%, and we are right about 24.1.
Yeah, thank you.
And we talked a little bit last year, sir, about, I believe your question, or maybe it was Ms. Timmerman's question, do you feel comfortable under that 25% target? I would tell you at 24, I do feel fairly comfortable because it's stable. When we're going to go deficit, it's not with recurring expenditures. It's not from people. It's from doing things. It's buying additional buses. It's buying additional student devices. Those are one-time purchases as compared to that ongoing and increasing burden of payroll or additional staffing.
Mr. Calden, it says teacher step increase. Is that a step increase for everybody that is on the step ladder?
Yes, ma'am. To just kind of put it in general layman's terms, the reason it's so rounded is because I know there's about 800 people that are on that teacher pay scale. And I went in and did the average, which is about $600 per step, and I just multiplied the two. And it comes out to 480, so I rounded up. Because that's how my brain works with conservatism.
I know this is not going to be popular, but if our enrollment stays flat, when do we start considering repurposing campuses?
That's a really good question, and one that honestly we've started having that conversation administrative here at the end of the spring, where we started identifying, do we have the ability to repurpose some campuses? In true honest, I would tell you that we probably need to wait until the fall and start looking at enrollment to again determine, is that a trend or is that the new norm? If we're going to not be growing at the 2, 3, 4% that we originally thought we were going to be growing at with demographic projections, then absolutely, sir, we need to be having those conversations about how best utilize our facilities. And that would be something that we would need to be bringing back to you in the fall. Once we know what enrollment's going to look like, we need to start making those plans so that we can get that out to the community if that's a route that we need to go.
When we met,
Yes, ma'am.
I can't remember the figures, but I think everybody needs to know, how much money were we supposed to get for the ADA? And how much did we get because of all these absences?
Yeah, so great question, and I thank you for bringing it back up. When we just look at enrollment-based funding, which Texas does not have, but there are 43 other states in the nation that do enrollment-based funding. If you take our total student enrollment times 6,215, it's about $69 million in change. All told, we anticipate that we are going to earn from the state, because of absences, we're going to earn about $56 million in actual funding for the year. So there is a delta of about $13 million that the district will not receive due primarily to student absences. I say primarily, there are some student absences that can be funded, but those generally have a limit on them, and they're one or twosies here's and there's. It's to go to the DMV to get your driver's license one time a year. It's to go serve as a election judge during an election. So it wouldn't count for everyday things.
And
So-
just think what we could do with that $13 million. I wish parents had a good grasp of how these absences hurt our budget.
So in all honesty, that's one of the reasons that when we are talking 95%, it doesn't sound overly aspirational, but just moving it from 94.5 or 94.7 to 95 yields significant amount of funds on the backside for the district. So you're talking, the better part of $500,000 for every 1% that we can get enrollment up. It's not insane. There are other districts that sit at 97 plus. Capel ISD is a great example. They'll be at 97+% student attendance on an annual basis. We've not been at that level, so we don't build our budget off 97. We have been at 95 and over 95. Yes, student attendance is important for funding purposes, but it's also important for the student as well, because they're not being instructed if they're not here. So
Right.
At the end of the day, it comes back to what's best for our students. But yes, in this scenario, it also helps the district as well. Those expenditures don't go away just because the student's not here, but that funding goes away because that student's not here.
Mr. Calden?
Yes, sir.
So I'm looking at the screen we have now. Basically, look at the budget now, we would be in about an $800,000 deficit, and most of that would be because we're opening Creek.
So yes, that would be primarily due to the opening of Creek. Most of those positions that were approved back in May did not involve Creek specific. So you will get some more requests for positions here probably in October as we really work through what's going to be needed for the opening of Creek. Honestly, I was really staggered to kind of find out the insurance on that building alone is going to be about $725,000 on an annual basis. Now, I do know that the property insurance market is softening, so I do anticipate that number to come down. And real, that building's not going to be open for the entirety of the 26-27 fiscal year. But by going ahead and budgeting the full amount for insurance now and the full amount for utilities now, that's not money that we're trying to find later. That's monies that, when we don't incur in the 25-26 budget, can be used for other one-time or capital improvements, or it can go into fund balance to help, again, with that opening, the true opening of Waxahachie Creek when we get to that 27-28 fiscal year.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Calden, going back to the special ed funding, so in October, we will find out if we're going to receive more, if we're, for our services, since it's service-oriented now, or are we gonna, will we find that number out in October, or will we present the number? What is the situation?
So I might have to phone more knowledgeable people on this, but my understanding is the state has set Category 1 and Category 8. And so at this point, now they're looking for that, not equal distribution, but they're trying to figure out how many students are in the other 6 categories before putting full funding weight to them. So we have to give them those numbers by October 8th, I believe is the date. I believe we will get.
That's correct. We have to give them 50% We have to give them 50% of our numbers by October 8th. It is taking our team right now, on average, about 30 minutes per student to figure out where they fall within the 4 domains. The 8 domains and the 4 categories within each domain. It's 45 pages that they have to go through in relation to that. So it's a pretty exhaustive process that they're going through. We're at about 15% right now that they have finalized in relation to those student numbers. And the goal was to hit that 15% so we could apply for a grant to help with funding for that same process to continue.
So, Ms. Kriegel, in telling you that, I don't anticipate that on October 8th, if we report all of them, that we will know from TEA on that day what additional funding may look like. I think that's all part of TEA's gathering plan before they start distributing funds. I will tell you that this year going in, 26, 27, there is a kind of a fail-safe or a hold harmless. They're going to tell you what funding should be, but you're going to get the better of what it is right now or what it is next year, with the caveat of this is what you're going to in 27, 28. So there could be on the horizon very soon for the district an increase or a significant decrease that we're having to adjust to going forward. So, but I don't anticipate we're going to have full knowledge of that on October 8th. I believe that's all part of their information gathering at that point.
Anyone else? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
At this time, the board's going to convene into closed session according to section 551.001 et sec of the Texas Government Code. It is now 5:52 p.m. It's now 6:41. The board's going to reconvene into open session. We're going to go a little out of order on our agenda. We're going to skip down to item number 10, which is our action item A, which will be consideration with possible action to approve the SHAC recommendation for sexual health education curriculum.
Good evening, Ms. McCutcheon and board. Please forgive my voice. My husband shared his laryngitis with me, I think, so I'll talk to him about that later. But we have an action item we would like for you to respectfully consider. We formed a subcommittee this year on what kind of sexual health instruction we wanted to give to our students. It was the current program logistically was difficult, so we wanted to review that and maybe make a recommendation to you guys to change it. This review was prompted by participation trends, which have steadily gone down, operational strain, and then questions about the impact of the instruction. So human sexuality is optional in the state of Texas, so we had to determine, first of all, whether we wanted to continue that instruction. Secondly, if we're going to continue, we needed to evaluate the current method that we're using versus something different. Thirdly, to assess impact, costs, logistics, and community alignment. The current model that we're using is Choosing the Best. It's actually a curriculum that is not designed for condensed delivery. It's designed for several sessions throughout the school year. We have gone from a counselor-led to a variety of staff members leading this instruction, so that also produces variability in comfort and effectiveness. It's a 5-day curriculum. It's designed for a year-long format. We've had it for over 10 years, believe it or not. It's been 10 years. And the annual cost is $14,000 to $17,000 that has been funded by EMAT in the past. The concerns about this are the materials are perceived as outdated by the students, and they are. The material is outdated. We've had a lot of student disengagement reported by staff, and then varying teacher comfort levels in presenting this sensitive material. And we just feel like sensitive topics require skilled facilitation. The opt-in model creates a logistical complexity for sure. When participation is uneven, classroom splits increase supervision needs and reduce instructional efficiency. So the staff time dedicated to tracking these permissions is also very time consuming. It's a significant time suck, really. Junior high participation has averaged about 1,000 students across 3 grades. This participation has declined over the last few years. And then there's a significant amount of follow-up required to secure the opt-in to make sure the permission slips are in place. The challenges are it splits classrooms. Some kids stay for the instruction. We have to pull the other kids out who don't have those permission slips in place. And then you've got to have supervision for those non-participants. We lose instructional time, and there's a bit of an administrative burden trying to track all of this. We formed the subcommittee for SHAC. The SHAC presented this subcommittee presented to SHAC, and it was subsequently approved to recommend discontinuing Choosing the Best abstinence curriculum. And we recommend that we implement a single session human sexuality participation model. So it'll be a one and done type model for grades 7, 9, and 12 each year. We'll continue to do the opt-in and have to obtain the permission slips. And we just ask that you approve our recommendation for this change in our human sexuality instruction. Do you guys have any questions for me? Again, please forgive my voice.
Any question for Ms. Bousquet? Okay, at
Thank
this
you.
time, I'll entertain a motion to approve action item A as presented.
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Timmerman. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Pitts. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries 5-0. And our last action item would be consideration, possible action to hire an executive director of special education. Mr. Berry?
All right, good evening, Board, Ms. McCutcheon. Y'all know I like to talk, so I'm so excited tonight, so I have a script to stick to so I don't just go on and on and on, because, so I'm gonna read my script. I'm pleased to present to you recommendation to hire Ms. Stephanie Collins Robertson as the Executive Director of Special Education. Ms. Collins Robertson is a seasoned veteran with 29 years of service in education, and she will join us with experiences as a teacher, assistant principal, and special education administrator. And we're genuinely excited to recommend approval for her hire. We'd like you to
Any
approve it.
questions for Mr. Perry? Okay, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to action item B as presented.
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Kriegel. Second by Mr. Cooper. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries 5-0.
Good afternoon. Thank you, trustees and Superintendent McCutcheon, for your confidence and for your support. I am humbled and honored to accept the opportunity to serve as the Executive Director of Special Education here in Waxahachie ISD. I firmly believe that leadership is about creating the conditions for our students to succeed. And I look so forward to partnering with our campus principals, our leaders, our communities, our families, and staff. So go Waxahachie. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we're going to move to our part of the news number 7, which are reports. Our first report will be our superintendent's report. Mr. McCutcheon?
Mr. Collins, this is Rosa. Again.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Also want to thank you, board members, for all your time and dedication. We just completed annual training at the Texas Association of School Boards Summer Leadership Institute, and so your time is greatly appreciated. Did also just want to remind you, I did give you a copy of the board operating procedures, and so that document is currently for your review. And any discussion or revision topics or discussions that you might have, if you could get that back to me by July 1st, excuse me, and then we'll hope to present this for approval for the 13th. I know we just finished TASB SLI, but the TASA TASB Tex EdCon is coming up. It is October 8th to the 11th. It will be in Houston this year. Registration does open on the 22nd. And so the TASB Delegate Assembly is going to be held on the 9th. So if anyone is interested in being on the TASB delegate, being our delegate, just let me know. We'll need to get that on the agenda for the July 13th board meeting as well. Okay, Lone Star Cup, exciting news. Want to let y'all know that Waxahachie ISD finished 19th in Class 6A. That's out of 251 school districts, and so that is amazing. That is everything, all of our academics, all of our extracurriculars. So just congratulations to the district. Very excited about that. Upcoming district events, we do have a couple of things already scheduled for August. Operation First Day of School will be a big event on August 1st. We'll do that at Jay Williams Gym. August 6th is our convocation. I am pretty sure we are going back to the Oaks Church for that. That's really the only facility large enough to hold all of us. And then First Day of School, August 12th. So it is coming quick. And with that, any questions or discussion?
Anyone? Thank you, Ms.
Okay,
McCutcheon.
thank you.
Okay, our report B will be our informational bond 2023 construction update. Mr. Mott.
Good evening, Board. Ms. McCutcheon, I'm going to give you your May 2023 bond update for June 2026. So the Finley Junior High alternate, which is all the fine arts areas, is going well there. Please remember we did start that May 5th of 2026 is when we got that area there, the band hall, and was originally the area was a choir room. That is now going to be the drama room. The drama was using that when we took over. We've got that then. Everything's going as well as we expected. That space is being remodeled and adding on a choir room there to match our other facilities. Is it going to be per inch to inch, square foot to square foot? No, but it will be very comparable to our other two facilities we've just done this to. They're all going to have the facilities they need and all that to survive and grow. So we will be giving the interior area, which is the fine arts and the drama room, we'll be turning them over by August 1 to the school. So they'll be able to start the school year in those areas there. The area we're adding outside the building, which is the choir room, we'll be turning it over by spring break of 27 at the latest on that one. Here's you a few pictures there. So we've added on a lot when you come into there to what it used to be in that back door area. It's shifting a lot there to add on to give it the extra ensemble rooms, the practice rooms, those kind of things. When you get back in there, you're going to see, when you walk that building here in August, you're going to see it's changed a lot in that back area. So there's some of it, that corner you see right there where that backpack is, that's right inside the back door, what used to be the back door. Now, you also remember the back door is going to be moved out now, a little further out, because the choir room will now be, so we'll move the back vestibule doors and set all further down what used to be the canopy. We're building a new canopy there. So it'll be a different look back there is what we're used to. Want to show you that picture there on your right. If you see that, when you see me showing sheetrock in fine arts areas and all that, understand when I say sheetrock in a fine arts area, it's not a piece of sheetrock. It's 3 on each side of the room. So 3 on the interior, 3 on the exterior, plus insulation. That's what it takes to get sound. So it's not when you go in there, you're like, oh, look, they've got sheetrock. In a band hall, there's 3 layers of sheetrock, as you can see right there. There's 3 layers of sheetrock. So it's not just one, and everybody goes, oh, it takes a lot to keep the sound down in those areas. Any questions on Finley? We're moving to Waxahachie Creek. It is, like you can see there, it is steadily coming to life out there. Miss Timmerman was there for a walk not too long ago, less than a month ago or so. We did the bond oversight committee out there. It's really, That building's progressing just like we figured it would. It's a very large building, and it is doing just like we want. We're on schedule to turn it over just like we wanted to late May, of 27, so it's coming along just like we needed to do. Starting to see sheetrock go up in some areas, those kind of things. Lots more of the roof is going on, those kind of different things there. Now, one thing I do want to say is the spur has started out there. They're doing a lot of work there on it. They're saying it will be finished by the time we start in August 1, and that's what we're kind of holding them to. And I'm saying I'm just make sure the area in front of the school is finished. I'm not necessarily worried about the rest. I do need that area in front of the school finished because that is some of our main entrances into the building there. Now, do want everyone to understand is Old Italy Road will be closing down around July 6th per the city. This has nothing to do with the school building. We are not asking the road to be closed down. They are doing some sewer line repair and all that, and they're going to close that road down for about 2 weeks. It is affect us. We're trying to get the Highway 77 at least temporary entrance into that. Right now, I'm running between 250 and 300 people a day out there. So you consider trying to put that all the way around, all the way down through the lake and all that. It'd be a pain in the rear end. So we're going to bring them in, try to bring them in off of 77 for our things, but for the rest of them, it is something the city is doing out there. And then the new road will be starting anytime soon. I know they've got all that on the Easton Road. Easton Way will be coming on there out there very soon. They'll start working on it. And they're going to start working on it on the north end and work down to the school on that. Here's your northwest corner there. So you can see that building, the rooftop you see right there, that's your indoor. You can see your two gyms there to your left, your two, they're competition gyms, but they're not your main competition gyms. Those are your two alternate gyms there. Your main competition gym, we hadn't even poured the floor or anything yet on that. There's your northeast corner. That's your fine arts center there, your band hall, those kind of things. Your storm shelters right there in the white styrofoam with the concrete poured inside of that. Understand those walls are 17 inches thick, so that's why they're a storm shelter. There's your southwest corner, so you can see there, that area there that you see the white roof on there, that is the area that's your main educational administration office there. You can see the brick is starting to really go around that. We've made it now all the way around that area there, and we're starting to go around the front of C, and you'll kind of see that here in just a second. And there you can see they're starting to come down across that other side. So the bricking is going along well. That's all I want to say on that. I don't want to talk about any of the weather or anything like that because I don't want to jinx anything. So here's a little bit of your interior. We do have on all the sheetrock we're putting on there, we do have the moisture barrier sheetrock on there. And not that we want it to flood in there because that's not good for it, but at least it holds it. We do have the windows and stuff like that in, but you still have some just humidity in the air, and that helps with that humidity in the air and things like that. Anything on Waxahachie Creek? Proposition C. So remember Proposition C came about with this bond. Now, one thing I've been asked recently a lot more by some principals in town of campuses and just some people in town is what brought Proposition C? How did we come up with everything for Proposition C? So we did have in the summer of 21, we had an outside consultant that walked all our facilities, and then we sat down with the current principal at that time of every campus and said, what are your needs for your campus? So that's how the Proposition C came about. And we cut that down from 4 priorities to 2 for the bond, and knew that at all times we'll look at the other priorities and look at those as we're going through it, and or since then, something that may have creeped up because something went out. We're starting to see more wear and tear all of a sudden on this or that items. So originally the Proposition C was 421 line items. That's what the bond was approved for. The $60 million was approved for that. Since then, we've started, because of savings and doing things in more of a group, instead of saying one campus at a time, we're doing them in more lump sums, like air conditionings at a time or floorings and things like that. We're doing it in a group way. We're getting better pricing. We've been able to spread out. So we started looking at priority 3, priority 4, and a few additions onto that. From, like I was saying, all of a sudden, who knows what, we've had a water heater go out, or we've had a line break or something like that that we really need to do on a campus. So now we're up to about 1,074 line items total. If you look at all those line items, by the end of the summer, we're hoping to be about 70% complete of all those line items. But on the original 421, we're hoping to be about 86, 87% complete, if not better, by the end of the summer. So to say we've done a very good job, I think we have. I think the money's been spent well, and as you can see, as you look at that first paragraph, the many vast things that it's been spent on. Is this also the things that's, I mean, yes, we've got paint and all that, but a lot of it's the hard stuff. It's plumbing, it's HVAC, it's roofing, it's flooring. It's the stuff that doesn't get changed very often. It's not like we change flooring every year. I mean, some of this flooring, we're doing a Howard flooring this year, and it hadn't been changed since it went down in '08. I think it's when that building was built, '08, '09. So it tells you, I mean, it's long life stuff we're doing on them. So as you're going to see in some of the pictures and some of the things we've done, here is, that is Northside's gym. Just a little bit of paint color changes that gym dramatically. You know, everybody goes, oh, look, it looks so much better now. And all we did is put a little bit of paint on it. And that's something they asked for this school year, saying everything else had been touched up but that gym. And it looked totally different. You can see the picture on the left is what it was. The picture on the right is what it looks now. The one thing that we'll be changing in there, we are changing and putting new LED lighting in there. Instead of the lighting on those beams, we're putting some disc lighting and stuff. So it'll make it a lot more brighter in there as well. So here's some of your older campuses. This one's actually either Dunaway or Shack that had lockers. We had 4 campuses that still had lockers and elementaries on them. So we took the lockers out and we're putting cubbies, like you're seeing a lot of the new schools. That's what they're asking for. And so now it makes it a little bit more functional. Instead of one big locker, it's 2 cubbies. We now can hold 26 kids' backpacks and stuff in the cubbies, instead of like a lot of those lockers were 13, 14 lockers that you have to double if they were even using them, because they didn't want to open and close the doors and stuff like that. So now you have the storage above for the teachers and those kind of things. So all 4 of those campuses, which is Dunaway, Shack, Northside, and Wedgeworth, have all had their lockers removed, and we're going with new casework and things like that. Here's some of your kitchen work. This is going to really change it. I don't have many of the early pictures before, and that's on me. I wish I had, because you can go in them now, and they look like brand new kitchens. We put in new flooring and new tile on the walls. Some of that, again, some of that tile was who knows how old. But it just changes the look dramatically. The kitchen staff is loving it from what they've seen so far. We're on par to have all that finished by the end of this month, so they can start putting them back, because all 4 of those are getting brand new serving lines off of, through Child Nutrition, bought 4 new serving lines for the front of each one of those 4 campuses that we're doing. Here's the front of Shackelford. If you've been in Shackelford recently, that was a trip hazard walking in and out of that building up there. It was a lot of different slab work through there, and it was a lot of, it had moved up and down a lot through there. So probably even from when Rusty was principal there, you probably had all those problems there. And so we removed that this summer. This was a quite late ask she asked. We had that on down the list, but we were able to look at it and get it done this summer, early summer. So now it's one smooth concrete through there. Miss Schaefer is loving the look of it. Dunaway was already done like that, which is its twin. It was already done like that some time back. Don't know why Shack wasn't when that happened, but it is now. Here's one of the big ones. It's Howard Geothermal. As you can see there, all the lines were dug, electrical lines, plumbing lines, things like that. If you're going to go over there today, we've started setting all the actual chiller towers. Now, it's not up and running yet, but we're still all the work on it. It should be up and running by August 1st when everybody returns. Here is your Clift. It's got 2 condenser towers in the back. It's a little different than the rest. And it'll have boiler units and stuff like that on that one. So that's the area there in the back of that. And then this is the reception area at Turner. The reception area at Turner was the only building that when you came into the building, you walked onto campus to get into the office. It's the only one we had that way left. Everything else, you walk into a reception area, you walk into the reception area where the office is, and then you get released by a button to get onto campus. We were allowing them to be on campus before we got them into the secured office. So now we've changed that, which used to be the sliding window there. As you can see there on the left, it is now removed. We'll put a door there with a side light glass on it, and then they'll be in the office area, and then they'll be able to buzz out just like they will on all the rest of the campuses. So it will be just like all the rest of the campuses in safety and those kind of things. Any questions?
I know there's a lot of information. Anything from Mr. Watt?
Thank you.
Okay. Our next report will be our informational report on potentially introducing wrestling at WISD. Mr. Eglin? Is it wrestling or wrestling?
It's wrestling.
Okay.
No W, straight R, and 2 S's. L-I-N. Good evening, Board and Ms. McCutcheon. Thank you for the opportunity to present information regarding the addition of a wrestling program to our athletic offerings. The wrestling program would offer both junior varsity and varsity competition for both females and males starting this year. So I'm going to open and close with a why, then I'll give you a how, which for y'all I know you really want to know how much, and then a who and a where. So the why, we value choices in WISD, and the addition of wrestling expands opportunities for student athletes, providing a new competitive option for students who may or may not currently participate in athletics. Wrestling is a sport that welcomes athletes of all body types, all skill levels, all experience levels, and it creates opportunities for district, regional, and state competition, college scholarships, and off-season conditioning for athletes in other sports. Additionally, adding wrestling gives WISD another avenue whereby students can develop character, resilience, self-discipline, leadership, and accountability, encouraging participants to set goals, overcome challenges, and represent their school with pride. So, how much? All right. So the rationale is wrestling is a sustainable investment. So this is a worthwhile endeavor, we believe. Mats can last many years with proper care, and uniforms and protective equipment can be replaced gradually. Storage and maintenance needs are minimal, making most startup costs one-time costs. So that's not the norm for sports. Usually those expenditures are year after year after year, but most of this is just going to be a one-time deal. The estimated startup cost is about $40,000, and annual operating costs would primarily include tournament fees, transportation, that's the big one, cleaning supplies, and equipment replacement. Look at that guy, he's a hoss. All right, now the who. Talking about who we're competing against.
sorry,
So WH
Doctor.
Wrestling would be approved to compete in UIL District 36A. So that's against 10 other campuses on the girls' side and 11 campuses on the boys' side, because Dallas Jesuit only has a high school boys wrestling team. So we would have to find someone else for the girls. But so you'll have Irving ISD, they have 3 schools. Arlington ISD, they have 5 schools. Grand Prairie ISD has 2 schools. And then of course us and Dallas Jesuit. So that's the who and the where. We're blessed to have existing facility infrastructure for this program through J.W. Williams. That provides suitable practice and competition space. It also allows the program to operate without significant facility upgrades, and it provides a potential opportunity for revenue by hosting multiple tournaments each season. It's kind of hard to find a place to wrestle. And so when you hold those tournaments, the people who host those tournaments, those are big fundraising opportunities. And so us having that gym that's just sitting there waiting for an opportunity like this to be used, it gives us an opportunity on the boys and the girls side, on the varsity and the JV side, to host multiple tournaments each year. And this will be self-funding. I didn't say that, but it'll be good. It'll be good. All right. So, in conclusion, adding wrestling would expand athletic opportunities, increase student participation, and provide lasting benefits for students and the school community. With manageable startup costs, strong sustainability, existing facility support, and revenue potential, wrestling represents a valuable investment in student success and school pride. So thank you for your time, and I'll open the floor for questions. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you said $40,000, and then you went into transportation and all that.
Mm-hmm.
What was the bottom line on everything?
The bottom line can't be determined as of yet because the transportation costs are yet to be determined. So that's the big outlier. So with that $40,000, we're talking about wrestling mats, shoes, singlets, headgear, cleaning supplies, tournament entry fees, and the stipends for the 2 coaches that would coach the sport. That actually is $39,000. So then when you throw in the transportation, getting to Dallas, getting to Grand Prairie, and then if our people qualify, of course, for, regional or state, we got to get them there. So the transportation is the piece, that's the wild card.
Okay. So I understood from earlier discussions that we had one coach. So will that one coach coach all 4 teams?
So we would have one head coach and one assistant coach, and those 2 would be responsible for all 4 teams. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I'm excited about wrestling because we've got kids out there that they can't play football because they're too small. And every kid needs a connection. So that's why I'm so excited about this. And I'd forgotten about the tournaments and being able to make revenue. So you're right, after a while, it should be self-sustaining, I would think.
Should be semi-sustaining. So I did do some research, reaching out to the school districts that actually do have thriving wrestling programs, and asked them, how much do you typically expect to gain from hosting? And most of them are just trying to find excuses to host more, because it's everybody needs a place to wrestle. Everybody needs a place to do it. And so us having that gym, and if we use that auxiliary gym and that big one at J.W. Williams, we can get a whole lot done in a very small, contained space. So I'm excited about the opportunity as well.
I think the community will be excited about it too.
I hope so.
Do you have any idea how many kids would be willing to
So we're
participate?
anticipating, that's a great question, we're anticipating 50. Now that's 50 between 4 teams. It's all weight class determined, so that could change as well, because we may not have this weight class or that weight class, kind of like powerlifting. But we are hopefully optimistic that once the word gets out that we're actually going to pilot this year and get this thing rolling, that we'll get our numbers where we want them. And then obviously in a year when we're looking at possibly having 2 high school wrestling programs, we're just splitting the kids. So it's the same numbers, but now it's a more manageable, because now it's not 2 people running 50, if that makes sense, because we're spreading them out. Now that's another conversation for another time. But we're hoping around 50 folks. 50. 50.
Any other questions for Dr. Eglin? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, our last report will be our informational virtual learning update. Mr. Perry.
All right, good evening again, Board, Ms. McCutcheon. Thanks for having me come up here. This is a follow-up from a previous meeting, just a workshop we had over the possibility of an opportunity of virtual learning for Waxahachie ISD. You guys asked me what my next step was, or if I had surveyed, and that was my next step, and so surveys in. We conducted a survey. Ms. Lockridge sent it out, helped me out with that, and we had about 180 responses. We had it open for a little less than a week, wanted to kind of have a concise window so we could get an idea of what people were thinking. So out of 180 responses, about 69% of them were parents, about 21% were teachers, and the remaining were students, stakeholders in the community that maybe or may not have been parents. So the first question we had, a lot of these questions were based on a Likert scale, 7 being the greatest and 1 being the least on this. So out of all the folks that responded, out of 182 answers, 36% said they were very familiar with a virtual or online learning program, like what it meant, the whole idea behind it. So when we go down to number 5, number 4, number 6 that are answering with that, which anything from 4 and up is that they're somewhat familiar. We had about 72% of our respondents were fairly or very similar or familiar with the virtual education program and what it is. We then asked a little bit about benefits, what the perception of the believed benefits of virtual learning platform could be. And what we found was flexibility was the number 1 at 25%. So flexibility scheduling. This would enable folks who are involved or enrolled in this virtual learning program the ability to have a flexible schedule for what reason or not. Other one is improved access for students with the unique needs. That could be specialized instruction or maybe a medical need or a unique family situation. And then personalized learning space, learning in their own home, the comfort of their home. Maybe they have underlying issues. A lot of these kind of relate to each other, in my opinion. But health and or safety considerations, we have medical situations at times. That is another percentage. So about 25% flexibility, 21% of access with unique needs, and then personalized spacing, another 21%. Y'all tell me if I need to slow down or if you have any questions, please. So what student would benefit? This one was broken out a little bit more. You got really close to 25%, 25%, 25% split up, and then some other sub-percentages. Students, 25% needing special or flexible schedules. That's one. Another 25% really is students with medical needs. We do have those. We could probably sit here and name a handful right now of students that had a struggle in high school because of a medical need and being out and needing to be at home. And then high school students was really a vague answer, and that comes into play with students that may have just a unique situation. So 50% of this boils down to students needing a flexible schedule is what we're looking at. The next Likert scale is, do you believe Waxahachie should consider offering a virtual learning option? And overwhelmingly, well, I say overwhelmingly, 50% of the response was 7, which is the highest or the very likely to offer that. Yes, we agree to the highest on the Likert scale, 7. And then our top 4 responses, top 50% of the responses was yes. 85% total of responses were fairly to strongly believe in offering a virtual program for our students. Which virtual learning model is preferred? This was interesting for me personally. The big getter at 43% was hybrid model, which the hybrid model is where we would have students could be here half a day in person and then half a day virtually, or A day at the high school, full in person, and B day online. Live teacher was an option, which was interesting. Live, so that'd be synchronous learning on the internet, which, just to throw out ideas on that, that would be it would be a stretch for personnel-wise. We'd have to have staff that can man that and be live synchronous teaching. Then fully online instruction was at 15%, and then self-paced virtual at 12%, which kind of falls in line with online, but does not supplant high school choice. Like I said last time, it's 2 totally different programs. And then no preference was about 12%. Concerns. The concerns we had was limited social interaction. One of the big things, the grand designs of public ed, in my opinion, I've always said this quote, one of the grand designs of public ed is for students to have that social development. Where else will they learn how to deal with struggles, different personalities? I've always told parents, you know, if they don't have a struggle in high school, when they get to college and they have a hard time with the professor, that's where you learn part of that and learn how to live with other folks. So on the concerns, limited social interaction was a top vote getter at 23%. Then quality of instruction was a concern at 22%. Student accountability, which falls into students finishing their work, but also how students are doing for us on state assessments. And then reduced student engagement, because there's not someone there a lot of times that are keeping the students engaged. Important for the success of a virtual program, academic tutoring, that had to be available at 23%. Parent training and resources, this will be something very new for parents because we haven't done it here at Waxahachie ISD. Tech support would be a huge thing. If everything is online or virtual with a platform, they'd have to have tech support both from the provider and from the ISD tech department, and then special education support as well. Technology challenges, the top vote getter was parent and guardian support. Again, that goes into the previous slide as far as having support at 18% in the previous slide. 22% is a concern for challenges for this to roll out. Reliable internet. It is a thing still. Some folks don't have the greatest internet due to where they're at, where they live. Tech support, again, access to devices was a concern at 17%. These students would be students of Waxahachie ISD. We are one-to-one. We would provide a student at Waxahachie ISD with a device. And then student digital literacy. That is a concern on students jumping into the virtual realm and maybe not being as digital literate as we would want. Another Likert scale that we have is how important is it for students in a virtual program to have access to extracurriculars. So this is asking our stakeholders, access to extracurriculars would be the opportunity to attend games and events, dances, etc. And 77% of our respondents, or 56% of our respondents voted and chose it was the greatest need. And the next two responses accounted for about 74% saying it's important, the most important for our Waxahachie ISD virtual students to have access to these events, to have a student ID and set in a student section, to go to games, to go to plays, to go to dances, etc. How important do you feel communication and feedback for teachers is? And this one, it kind of spoke for itself. The top choices on the scale of 1 to 7, 5, 6, and 7 accounted for 94% of our responses, saying that it's important to most important for communication and feedback to be coming back to our students and families that are involved in this. This question was, how do you, this one really grabbed me, y'all. How would you agree with the following statement? Students can achieve the same academic success in virtual as they would in a traditional classroom. The top vote getter with a score of 7 on the Likert scale, 1 to 7, was a 7, with most likely at 37%. Then the next highest was 1, the lowest option to choose. So it's kind of both ends of the spectrum were our top two choices, but I believe 37% is a lot more than 13%. So most of our our responses go with that virtual is not as a good of an option for some students. Okay, which of the factors would most influence your support or interest in participating in a virtual learning platform? And flexibility, student academic performance, student safety and wellness, teacher preparedness and training, and 13% rounded out availability for support services. So flexibility and support, along with our academic performances, were our responses on that. And slide 14, basically our last slide, is how likely would it be for your student to participate in a virtual education program? And our top two responses, again, 7 was at 32%, and 1, the lowest choice, was at 22%. So it's, we're a little bit divided on that. So we have folks that are really interested and excited at the possibility. We have some folks that are not, which is okay. It's the whole point behind this survey. Any questions so far for me? I'll talk about next steps. Okay. Our next steps, we as in me, Mr. Coleman, I've talked with Cabinet several times. We've been doing a lot of background work on this, working on what it would look like, been consulting with other districts and looking at other models of how this would roll out. A neighbor down the road, about 5 or 10 minutes, Midlothian, they're rolling one out. It's going to be very similar to what we're looking at. They're about 2 weeks in front of us. They've started taking enrollments. So We're prepared for implementation of this. We've looked into the turnkey, as I mentioned in the last presentation, was we're looking at turnkey, so that would be a third party providing it all from point A to point Z on this. We're already in partnership with Imagine Learning, who provides us with our credit recovery program, and they are state approved. They also have the virtual platform they have gives us access to Texas certified teachers for those classes. I'll tell you from a personal side, my son piloted a course over this summer that would resemble this. He did it last year, not this summer. And it's a very, very thorough process for these classes. Sometimes it was like dragging him through mud to get him to do it because he didn't want to do it at home. But looking at the course itself, they are legitimate courses and very, very well made and kept up with from the people at Imagine Learning. We have documents and resources that we've already created in the event that we roll up with this. And we have our interest declaration form, informational page, the standard operating procedures, application for it, student parent program expectations and guidelines. We also have our course offerings, our graduation plan. We are looking at Foundation High School program and also Foundation with Multidisciplinary Studies endorsement. And I've already, to get ahead of things, courses that we offer via virtual have to be sent into the TEA for them to see and have the approval of them or vet them or see that we're coming from a reputable source that has these classes. So we've taken all the steps to do this. It's going to be really cool to see it roll out and see what kind of interest we have in it. The cost for it is around $235 per course per student, which rounds up to be about $1,880 per semester. Mr. Cawden, that rolls out to be a little bit or a lot less than what we receive ADA, right? So we would actually generate funding from ADA for these students because they would be giving us ADA. So initially, going back in time 2 months, the presentation was an opportunity for students to grab students that may not be in class or in school. I know that one school that I talked to, they had 78 applications already, and I think 56 of them were homeschool students in their attendance zone. So that's 56 kids that they're capturing their ADA now and receiving an education that is accredited, and we're going to get funding for it. We won't get full funding because $235 per course, but we will receive funding because it will have access for their ADA. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Perry, how will attendance be checked since that's how
That's the interesting
we're
thing.
paid?
Great question. Ms. Krieger really has a good question. So when we're looking at attendance on this, they've kind of gone, they as a TEA have had some different options. So we have the option of a virtual campus, which has some tighter regulations on it, kind of like we have Waxahachie High School of Choice is a different campus for Waxahachie ISD. So they have certain stipulations and guidelines they have to go by. We don't really want to go virtual campus, but a virtual program is where we have a lot, that's what we're looking at here, a lot more freedoms. It's almost sounds too good to be true is what I said to someone I was on the phone with last week. But to answer your question, their time that they put in on the computer program, and once they complete a course, that is reported directly to us, which then is reported to TEA for our ADA funding. Does that make sense? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Any other good question? All right, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Y'all have a good night.
All right, board, next item will be our informational items. Those are included in your binder for you to review at your own leisure. That will move us into our last thing tonight, which will be our consent agenda, which we have items A through double A up for consideration. If there's no questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion to approve consent agenda items A through double A.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda A through double A.
Motion by Mrs. Timmerman,
Second.
second by Mr. Pitt. Is there any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Motion carries 5-0. And our last item will be a motion to adjourn. Motion by Mrs. Kriegel,
Second.
second by Mr. Pitts. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you and good evening.